So we have to discuss about I. Richards' practical criticism and a chapter on the figurative language. Earlier, we have seen the task was given to all of you to watch videos about tradition and individual talent by T.S. Eliot. And it is believed that that is one of the seminal essays which began a kind of a movement in criticism, which is known as new criticism. That was, in a way, a beginning of new criticism. Now, the first question that comes before we study I. Richards is this: what is new criticism? What is new criticism? How do we understand this concept of new criticism? You may start asking a question that, well, criticism is fine. We can understand what is criticism. Criticism means vivachan. We can say it is a way of reading literature, is known as criticism. Criticism in literature obviously is not something what we say in normal term, that somebody is criticizing somebody, somebody is telling some negative things about other people. That is not the sense of the word criticism when we talk about literature. Here it is sahitya vivachan. So how different ways of reading literature, we consider it as criticism. Well, but criticism is happening for so many years. You have studied Bharat Muni's Natya Shastra from there, or Aristotle's Poetics, where in East or in the West, these traditions of reading literature begin. We have those way of looking at literature. But what is new criticism? What does this new stand for? Now, that will be my first question to everybody, that what do you mean by new criticism? How far this criticism is different from any other criticism, which was we consider traditional criticism, because this is called as new criticism. Yes, who will tell me what do you mean by that? Anybody would like to throw some light on it? I have joined by another mobile also. So if you can let me. Yes, through this mobile phone, are you able to access this camera and other thing? Yeah, my hands are there on a piece of paper. Can you find that?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Are you able to see?
Yes, sir, yes.
I think you are speaking, but I am not able to get your sound. Yeah, okay. Are you getting my voice?
Yes, sir.
Maybe yes, but I am not getting your voice. Yes, can anybody speak so I can come to know if I'm getting your voice or not?
Sir,
Yes, sir. Am I audible, sir? Hello?
Another device, so there will be a problem. Okay, new criticism. Are you able to see that? Yeah. So what do we mean by this new criticism? Yes. The word new that comes here. How do we see this concept of the word new here? Any idea? Anybody?
sir, may I give answer?
Just a minute. Just a minute. Yeah, I think Hiral is speaking something, but I will have to manage the sound properly. Just a minute. It's a kind of an echo sound coming. Okay, anybody can speak so I can get your sound.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Bhumika. Yeah, I got your sound. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Now anybody can say anything. New criticism. What is the concept of new?
Sir,
Yes.
new criticism is focusing on the text and the intention of author. It is like it is not about the satisfying the readers, but what was the intention of writer and focusing the text and reading it closely. What was the imagination and theme and rhythm of that text?
Okay, so we see that it is textual reading. Yeah. New criticism can be known as textual reading. Yes. Yeah. And instead of reading intention of the author, instead of this, it is textual reading. Yes, this is how Hirel has said here. Okay. Anybody else? Any other observation?
Sir, it is a reaction against traditional old historical criticism.
Okay, a reaction against old. Yeah. And what was that old?
It
What was?
concentrated. It was only related to text rather than the biography or the an author.
No, I mean, I'm asking, what do we mean by old or traditional criticism? Was it not textual reading?
It was there, but it did not concentrated on the biography of the author.
Yeah, we have to see. So textual reading, you can say that textual reading was there, even in the old traditional one. So how is this textual reading changing in the new criticism? In the old
So new
traditional also,
criticism,
without reading text, what will they do? Yeah.
new criticism is rigid and structured. Like it has
Just
some
okay,
rules, and it
just
can
a minute.
it disqualifies the many possibly fruitful
Hiral, just a minute.
perspective.
I'm not able to get your sound. Okay, now you speak? Let me see if I can get a sound.
Am I audible to you, sir?
Yes, now you're audible. Yeah.
Okay, sir. On my accordance, new criticism is has some rules. It is structured and rigid. Like it can disqualify many possibly fruitful perspective to understand the text, like history and psychoanalysis.
Okay, fine. That is the limitation of new criticism. Do you see that is a limitation of new criticism?
Yes, old criticism was like is it satisfying to the reader or not? But new criticism is based on the it can disqualify the fruitful text from it.
It can disconnect. New criticism disconnects the text from several things, which was in an older form. That is, you can say in the old traditional form. The criticism in the older form was, you can say, a product of history. Yes, it was a product of history. It is a product of society. Literature is the product of history, society, culture, yes, yeah, religion, uh, psychology, And above all, also there is author. There is, above all, there is author also. So in a traditional literary form, people were trying to see the things, and they were trying to read literature also with a kind of a deep moral concern. So moral reading of literature also was there, whether this literature is making, if this literature is making society or individual good or not, good or, that was always the concern, that the moral. So when Plato was objecting to literature, he was objecting on moral ground. And when Aristotle is trying to defend, he also tries to say that tragedies make people humble. It humiliates. So that was the purpose of catharsis, that there is making of a moral being in that also. But apart from that, traditional reading was also trying to see that literature is a product of society. Yes, of society. It is a product of culture, religion. Then later on it developed like human psyche is playing a vital role in all those things. Then there is the time, history, race, milieu, moment, as Taine says, race, milieu, moment. That also was the important concern for the readers of this criticism. Now the new criticism says that, well, there is no need to see all these concerns. They say that there is no need to see all these concerns, and in that there is no need to see even the authorial intentions also. No need to see that it is written by an individual. So when T.S. Eliot says that honest appreciation and sensitive criticism should be directed towards poetry, not towards poet. Towards poetry, not towards poet. At that time, he is removing this concept. The poet is removed. The author is removed, and what comes at the center stage is the text. The text. The center stage is now the text, and not the author, not the poet. It is the text that is at the center. So what Hirel said initially, that it is all about textual reading. That is the sense in which we see it is more about textual reading. That's why the question comes that in traditional reading, was textual reading not done? Yes, it was done. Without reading text, you can't do anything. But when you are reading the text, you were rather trying to look at how it makes individual moral, or how the history of the time, race, milieu, moment of the time, how society or how culture, religion, human psyche are reflected. And then we were doing autobiographical reading. So author, how the author himself, his attitude towards life, his vision of life, his philosophy, her life are getting reflected. That is what we were seeing. Now coming to new criticism, they are trying to say that do very close reading of the text, very close reading of the text, close reading of the language. Of moreover, it was normally about poetry. It was about poetry, because you need a kind of a small writing pieces here, small writers. If larger play, it may be difficult because lots of rereading is necessary. When you do close reading, you can't read it only once, but several times you have to read that work of art to understand that. So close reading of poetry. So they tried a lot with poetry. They tried a lot new criticism with poetry here. And in that we find that I.A. Richards' practical criticism, I.A. Richards' practical criticism. This became a seminal work. This became a seminal and very important work of seeing how new criticism is found in practice. New criticism in practice. In this work, it is found. So they are doing a very interesting experiment that I.A. Richards did was something like it was something about you can say poetry without title or without, you can say, name of author. Study of poetry without even the title, because title also will help us to read a poem in a particular way. Title will bind us. So you remove even the title, and you also remove the name of the author. So if there is a big name like Shakespearean sonnet, then it will be very difficult for us to criticize it. So no name, and without the name of the author, without the title, only the poem is given, and the people or the students or the scholars are supposed to just study the language, of poetry, and how it is reflected there. And while doing this, he faced several problems. So in his experiment, practical criticism was his experiment, where such poems were given to group of students, and then they raised very interesting, curious questions. And he analyzed that. And one thing that becomes significant is about figurative language. So figurative language. So the language of poetry, is not similar to the normal language. Here in poetry, you always find what is known as figurative language. Figurative means figures of speech, for example, similes, metaphors, a lot many other way that the language is there. In Vakrokti, you also have seen about Abhida, Vyanjana, Lakshana. You have seen, and you will see that in 20th century criticism, all those ideas are coming, but in a different way. All those ideas of looking at the poetry or questioning the poetry, the language of poetry became very significant in all those things also. Okay, so let me come back to here. Yeah, okay. So we're working with two devices, lots of echo sound keeps on coming there. So this, and now let us see what I.A. Richards is doing in new criticism. But what else we can say, what is new criticism, or what they are trying to do, because it is a kind of a movement where every decade new writers kept on coming, and they contributed in one or the another way to those. Let me present this screen and see briefly about new criticism. Okay, so here we find that this term set current by the publication of John Crow Ransom, that is J.C. Ransom's The New Criticism, that played a very significant role. Are you able to see the screen I am sharing?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
There is a sound problem. I'm not able to, just put a comment. I'm not able to listen your sound. Okay, sorry. Can you? Okay, can you see the screen that I am sharing?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Yes. Okay, so J.C. Ransom's 1941 book known as The New Criticism, where it came to be applied to a theory and practice that was prominent in American literary criticism until late in 1960s. The movement derived it in considerable part from elements in I.A. Richards' Principles of Literary Criticism and Practical Criticism, which were published in 1924 and 1929. So, considerable part of its features came from I.A. Richards' this work and from the critical essays of T.S. Eliot. It opposed the prevailing interest of scholars, critics, and teachers of that era in the biographies of authors, the social context of literature, and literary history by insisting that the proper concern of literary criticism is not with the external circumstances or effects or historical position of a work, but with a detailed consideration of the work itself as an independent entity. And this became very important to understand. It opposed the prevailing interest of scholars, critics or teachers, in what? In biographies of authors, social context of literature, literary history, and then they try to concentrate. These are all external circumstances, and detailed consideration of work itself is more important rather than all these external elements. So external elements and internal elements. Language of poetry is an internal element that is to be concentrated here. Notable critics in this mode were Southerners like Cleanth Brooks, Robert Penn Warren, whose textbook Understanding Poetry, Understanding Fiction, published in 38 and 43 of the last century, did much to make the new criticism the predominant method of, see this word, teaching literature in American colleges. Teaching literature in American colleges, high schools for almost 2 to 3 decades. So as a teaching method, this became a very prominent, very popular, even today, this method is quite prominent and very popular also. Yes, Hiral's comment between a text's ideas and its form, between what a text says and what it says, yes, it is fine. So what the text ultimately want to say, what is the form of the text and how say, rather than what the poet wants to say. If you see this in context, the comment given by Hiral, traditional question is that what the poet wants to say. Now you ask another question, what poetry wants to say. Now what poetry wants to say. That is the difference between the traditional criticism and the new criticism there. Okay? So it is predominantly a teaching method, and most of these scholars were teachers also. Most of these critics in the beginning of or the first half of 20th century, they were teachers also. So they were applying teaching methods in the classroom, and then they were working on it. That when you want to teach a literature, take it as an independent entity. Forget about the author for a while. Forget about the context in which it is written for a while. What is text trying to say? Let us try to concentrate on the text and then try to understand what the text wants to say. Well, it will have its own limitations, but still it is a very interesting aspect of studying literature. Because then we are very near to the language of literature. Then we try to study the language, that what is language doing here. That becomes very important aspect here. A very influential English critic, F.R. Lewis, in turning his attention from background, sources and biography to the detailed analysis of literary texts themselves, shared some of the concepts of the new critics and their analytic focus on what he called the words on the page. The words on the page. And what are the words telling us? What the words want to say? What are the words speaking? That is the concentration here, rather than what the poet wants to say. He differed from his American counterparts, however, in his emphasis on the great literary works as a concrete and life-affirming enactment of moral and cultural value. Some of the critics still said that, well, we can study the text, but then still moral concerns, the cultural values of the text still remains there. The great tradition of morality with literature, or we can say cultural values, how literature carries, that cannot be completely denied. That was his point of view also. The new critics differ from one another in many ways, but the following points of view and procedures are common to many of them. So all new critics also did not agree with each other, but still there are some common points which we can say are commonly found in everybody. For example, a poem, it is held, should be treated as such, in Eliot's words, primarily as poetry and not another thing. Poem is a poetry, and study the poem, what the poem wants to say. So that was one of the points there. Then the words which were given by Jesse Ransom in that, the first law of criticism which Jesse Ransom said is that it shall be objective. The word, very important word here, is objective. The opposite of objective is subjective. So in new criticism, one is not supposed to be subjective, but objective analysis. This is tatast, tatast bhav sathe analysis karvama આવે. That was very important. Then the autonomy of the work itself as existing for its own sake. New critics warns the reader against critical practices which divert attention from the poem itself. That is what we call intentional fallacy and affective fallacy. And the fallacies that became very important. So what the poetry wants to say, and that become very important. In analyzing and evaluating a particular work, these they eschew reference to the biography. Eschew means stayed away from the biography and temperament of the author and social conditions and other things also. Second point, principles of the new criticism are basically verbal. Verbal, what? There should be textual evidence. There should be text saying something. And this is very important. When we will do some of the practices with some poems, this point we have to always keep in mind, that if I am understanding something from that poetry, where is the verbal evidence? Which words are telling me that this must be the meaning of this poem? Then third one, distinctive procedure of new criticism is explication and close reading. Yes, close reading, detailed analysis of the complex interrelations and ambiguities, multiple meanings which lies in the language. So that becomes an interesting part to see that how we see what is new criticism. And this is exactly what is tried out by I.A. Richards also. So refer to M.H. Abraham's book, New Criticism. We are referring to M.H. Abraham's book, New Criticism, and bring these tenets, 3-4 tenets, which are very important to understand as a background of I.A. Richards' practical criticism, that what basically it is there. Okay, to sum up, we can say that new criticism is an objective reading of a work of art. More generally or particularly, we can say poetry, objective reading. So it is not subjective reading. It is a very close reading of the language of poetry, and so it denies or it tries to stay away from who is the writer, biography of the writer, social context, cultural context, historical anything. They are trying to keep it aside, and they say that this is the language, and what language tries to say, that is what we want to study. So they say that we are not supposed to ask the question what poet want to say, what poet wants to say. We are supposed to ask what poetry wants to say. So our question is changing here, and what poetry wants to say. Whatever reading we do, there should be textual evidence. There should be a text which is trying to tell us that this may be the meaning. Because the words are not similar, do not have similar meaning. Words may have connotative meaning. Words may have denotative meaning also. So it may happen that one person is reading the word in a one way, the another can read the same word in a different way also. For example, if I speak a word, bat, if I speak a word bat, some of you may think that I am talking about a cricket bat. I am talking about cricket bat. Somebody can speak that I may understand that I am speaking about chama-chidi. Chama-chidi. So it all depends upon that. But it is quite true that the bat word, the sound of the bat word can give two meanings, and both the meanings are true also. Now, in that context, what are you supposed to do? You may be a little bit confused also when you try to say that which meaning I have to see in that context. Then, for example, let me take one page. And again, let me come here. Yeah, okay. So supposing, for example, to sum up what we want to see in new criticism, if I'm reading a newspaper and I find this headline, for example, supposing this headline I am reading this. So what is the meaning of this? What do you understand by this? What meaning comes in your mind? I am doing verbal reading, textual reading I try to do. So what is the meaning that I can get from this? One by one, we have to pick up one word at a time. Yes. SRK. What does SRK mean?
Actor, Shah Rukh Khan.
Okay, film actor. You say it is a film star. So now you are getting some sense that, well, this must be about something about the films. That is what you can say. It is something about films. Okay. So you are getting that context now clear, that this is something about film, because there is SRK. And then which film it can be? It can be something about a particular film or a career of a film star. Even if you see this word, hits, the word hits can mean like to hit a six, or it can be super hit. Yes, or you can say to beat somebody. Yes, you are getting various meanings from hits, to beat somebody, to hit a six, or super hit. Now, which from these three words, which word I am supposed to take here?
Super hit.
Which word? Super hit. No,
Super
now you, yeah. If somebody is asking you that why super hit, then what will you say? Why super hit?
He is a film star, so obviously he will go for some film. He might have gone super hit. He will not go for
Okay, so
cricket, or he will not beat somebody.
yeah, okay. So the meaning of this word depends upon this word. Yeah, the meaning of hits is hidden here. So it is not outside.
Yes.
It is not outside, but it is in the text. It is somewhere here. So you say you want to give this meaning here. Yeah. Now, but if it is like this person is a person also, he is not only film star. He is a human being also. He's a human. He is a person. Now, if this person is fighting with somebody, and if he is hitting somebody or beating somebody, then is it possible to read that meaning here?
Yes, sir. Then that object should be the name of some person or somebody. That it depends on the third word.
Okay, third word. Yeah. So it says it is home run. Yeah. So what does it mean? Yes, Bhumika, were you telling anything?
No, sir.
Okay, fine. So what else? What will be? Okay, so you says if it is super heat, or he is fighting with somebody and he is beating somebody, or it is this. So you say the other words will give the meaning. So what are the other words telling us? Anybody else?
May I try, sir?
Hi, yes. Yes, Jignesh.
Yes, I think Shah Rukh Khan has a great film, Om Shanti Om. That's why he's a super hit. And
Okay, fine. Okay, so you are reading here name of the film. Yes, you are reading the name of the film. Normally it is Om Shanti Om. Okay. So you are connecting this with a particular film, which is Om Shanti Om, and trying to read that it must be a super hit film. So SRK hits Om, that comes there. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Any other thing? Now, what is this run doing there? What is this run? Yes, run means like running away. Running away from something. So running away from responsibility, or how do you read run? Run also has a meaning, a specific meaning, in the semantic. See this word. Be careful about this word. Semantic field of sports. Yes. Semantic field of sports. In that also it has a specific meaning. If you're not able to see the full screen, rotate your mobile. Okay, while attending on mobile phone, if you're not able to see full screen, then keep rotated one so you can see full screen. Semantic field, of sports. Run means a score. Okay? Run means a kind of a score. In which sports do you find that?
Cricket.
Okay, cricket. Any other? Any other games where do you find a run is used as a score? So, like for example, we do not have enough vocabulary of all the games, all the games or all the sports. We are lacking the vocabulary, so we are not able to find whether the semantic field of sports. There might be any other sport where this meaning of this can be separate. Also, there is a game called baseball. There is a game called baseball. In baseball also there are runs. And if I have this choice that should I read this run as either cricket or as baseball, how should I read this? If I have that question that how should I read and which should be given an important aspect, then again I see the word run with this word, which was this meaning of this was standing for the title of the film, Om Shanti Om. It was standing for that. But now again to decipher this, I am seeing this and I find that this word sounds like home. It is a play on the word home. Yeah, Om is a play on the word home. And then I see that in baseball, there is something known as home run. Home run. In baseball, there is something known as home run, which in cricket is similar to hitting a six, maximum run, maximum score that one get. So it is similar to hitting a six in a cricket, but here it is a home run. Yeah. So now you say that the word SRK hits home run. That is how it is, and so it is super. It is about that he is having a super hit film, Om Shanti Om, but he is the language that is used here is this. But now you can see here the language, simple 4 words. There are only 4 simple words, but even in 4 simple words, we have so many possibilities. SRK can be a film star also, or it can be a simple human being also. And hits can be 3 meaning we can see. Om can be a film, Om Shanti Om, or Om can be home also. And then run can be either a score or running away. Then in score, we can say cricket or baseball, and then we can say it is a home run. So now the meaning is within that only. Meaning is not outside. Meaning is inside the 4 words. But we have to see how all these things are interrelated with each other. How they are interrelated with each other. When we see that, then the entire context becomes clear and everything becomes clear. How one word is giving meaning to the another word, the nearby word. The nearby word is getting a meaning from the other word there. And that is very important. We are not going outside this text. We are not trying to go outside the text, trying to see that it should have a meaning inside only. So when I say that Om means Om Shanti Om, if I try to go there, but then it should be heat and run, and SRK is telling me that Om should be this only because there is a film star. There is heat. These 2 words are giving a particular sense of meaning to Om, which should be Om Shanti Om. And then there is a word run, which tries to give that Om can be home also. It can be home run also. So this gives one meaning here also, the another meaning there also there. This is one example of doing a textual analysis, and where we try to see that meaning should come inside the text, not outside the text. So this is brief about new criticism and or new critical reading, that how they are trying to study this. Let me come back here again. Okay. So I think this example makes the point clear. Verbal study and trying to find meaning within the text, inside the poem only, not trying to go outside the poem. We may find lots of difficulty here. The difficulty that if we see here, what difficulty we face. One thing, that if I don't know that SRK is a film star, then how will I decipher it? Second, if I don't know SRK is a film star, then I will not be able to see what is the heat also. It is a super heat or not. Everywhere I will have a problem if I don't know, if I don't have this knowledge of this. Now, if there is an home run, and I'm good with baseball, but I'm not good with Bollywood. I'm good. I have knowledge about baseball, but I don't have a knowledge about Bollywood. Then I may think that SRK is some baseball player and he is hitting home run. I may read that SRK is a baseball player who is hitting a home run. That is another difficulty. I am good with Bollywood, but I'm not good with baseball. I don't have a semantic field of baseball. I don't have the semantic field of baseball. Then again, I don't know what is home run is a home run. These are all other difficulties that tell us that we don't know language in its totality. We don't know. It is nearly impossible for us to know the language in its totality. લેંગ્વેજ નું સંપૂર્ણ સ્વરૂપ જાણવું બહુ અઘરી વસ્તુ છે. એક ભાષા જુદા જુદા સિમેન્ટિક ફિલ્ડમાં કેટલા જુદા જુદા અર્થો સાથે રહે છે, એ બધું જાણવું કેટલું અઘરું થાય છે કોઈ પણ મનુષ્ય માટે, કારણ કે સિમેન્ટિક ફિલ્ડ બદલાઈ જાય એટલે અર્થ બદલાઈ જાય છે. શબ્દ મને ખબર છે, શબ્દો એનો એ જ છે, પણ અર્થ એનો જુદો છે. અર્થ ક્યાં છે? સિમેન્ટિક ફિલ્ડમાં છે. The meaning is in the semantic field, and I am not aware about the semantic field. I know what is home, but I don't know that Om can be home also in another semantic field. These are difficulties. And that's why language is a very complex thing. Language is a very complex thing. And because it is very complex, it is wonderful to study language also. Each and every poem becomes a puzzle. And as if you are puzzling with the poetry the same way, you can just practicing opening the poem in one way or the another. That way, new criticism becomes very fun, funny reading. Funny in a sense, you enjoy reading. You enjoy variety of meanings that may come from the poetry also. Now, I.A. Richards is trying to work on this in this, and is trying to do this practical criticism there. But now, before we enter into I.A. Richards' essay or some other thing that I.A. Richards has done, we take a small break here. And 15 minutes. Let us take a break of, let us say 25 minutes at 2 o'clock. Do you have any other class today?
Yes, sir. Maybe Hina ma'am's class at 4 o'clock.
Right, because I'm not able to listen. There is some problem with the audio output here. Let me stop the recording also of this part.